The vast emptiness of deep space stretched before Captain Sarah Chen as she stood on the bridge of the ESS Pathfinder. The exploration vessel's quantum sensors hummed softly, scanning the unexplored region of the Carina Nebula. After 6 months of routine survey missions, the crew had grown accustomed to the endless void. But today would be different. "Captain, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from Quadrant 7. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez reported, his fingers dancing across the holographic display. "It's like nothing in our database." Sarah leaned forward, her dark eyes narrowing as she studied the readings. The energy pattern pulsed with an artificial rhythm that couldn't be natural. "How far?" "About 3 light hours, ma'am. Whatever it is, it's big." The discovery should have been routine. Humanity had spent the last 50 years expanding through their corner of the galaxy, establishing colonies and research stations. They weren't alone in the cosmos. They'd made peaceful contact with several species, but they were still considered newcomers to the galactic community. Most advanced civilizations viewed Earth's rapid technological progress with mild amusement rather than concern. "Take us closer, Helm." "Full sensor sweep," Sarah ordered. The Pathfinder's engines thrummed to life as they adjusted course. "Dr. Hayes, what's your analysis?" Dr. Emily Hayes, the ship's xenorchaeologist, was already poring over the preliminary data. "The energy signature suggests artificial construction, but the decay rate indicates it's ancient, possibly predating human civilization by millennia." As they approached, the object slowly became visible on their main viewport. It was a massive structure, roughly cylindrical, but covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. The surface was dark, absorbing rather than reflecting light, making it nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. "It's some kind of beacon," Emily breathed, her excitement palpable. "These markings, they're not just decorative. They're telling a story." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. In her 15 years of deep space exploration, she'd never seen anything quite like this. "Any signs of active power sources?" "Negative, Captain," Marcus replied. "It appears dormant." The decision to investigate further wasn't taken lightly. First contact protocols were clear: observe, document, and avoid interference unless absolutely necessary. But the potential knowledge to be gained was too valuable to ignore. "Prepare an away team," Sarah announced. "Full containment protocols. Dr. Hayes, you'll lead the scientific analysis. Lieutenant Rodriguez, you'll handle security." As the team suited up in the airlock, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something crucial. The beacon's presence here, so far from any known civilization, felt deliberate, like a message waiting to be found or a trap waiting to be sprung. The away team's shuttle approached the ancient structure carefully. Up close, the geometric patterns were even more mesmerizing, seeming to react to their presence. Emily's voice crackled over the comm as she began her preliminary scans. "These patterns, they're not random. They're responding to our approach. It's some kind of interface." Before Sarah could order them to pull back, a pulse of energy erupted from the beacon. It wasn't violent, but it was powerful enough to temporarily overwhelm their sensors. When the systems recovered, the beacon's surface had transformed. What were once subtle patterns now glowed with an inner light, pulsing in a complex sequence. "Captain," Marcus's voice was tight with concern, "we're detecting massive energy buildups. Whatever this thing is, we just woke it up." The beacon's activation was like dropping a stone in a still pond. The ripples would travel far beyond their ability to track them. Deep in unknown space, ancient systems began to stir. Automated defenses, dormant for millennia, powered up. And somewhere, in the darkness between the stars, something far more dangerous took notice. "Get them back here now," Sarah ordered, but it was already too late. The beacon released another pulse, stronger than the first. This time, it wasn't just energy, it was information. The Pathfinder systems were flooded with data, star charts, and warning messages in dozens of alien languages. As their AI struggled to process the information, one message became clear. It wasn't just a beacon they'd discovered, it was an alarm. And they'd just triggered it. Emily's voice cut through the chaos. "Captain, you need to see this. The beacon, it's showing us something. The threat that forced the beacon's creators to hide. Something that's still out there." The final data packet contained a single image, a massive fleet of warships, unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, devastating entire solar systems. The timestamp on the warning was over 10,000 years old, but the threat it warned of was very much alive. "Plot a course back to Earth," Sarah commanded, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "Maximum speed. We need to warn the Defense Council." As the Pathfinder's wormhole drive spun up, Sarah watched the beacon continue its silent broadcast. They'd come seeking knowledge of the past, but had instead uncovered a threat to humanity's future. The race to save Earth had begun, and they were already behind. Admiral James Chen paced the length of Earth Defense Command's central operations room, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display of the solar system. The ESS Pathfinder's warning had arrived 3 days ago, and since then, the entire planet had been preparing for war. "Show me the latest deep space readings," he commanded. The hologram shifted, revealing dozens of anomalous signatures at the edge of the solar system. They were exactly where his daughter Sarah had warned they would appear, massive ships, moving with terrifying purpose toward Earth. "Time to intercept?" James asked, though he already knew the answer. 48 hours, sir," responded Commander Yuki Tanaka, her fingers moving rapidly across her console. "The quantum detection grid is picking up at least 300 vessels, all larger than anything we've ever encountered." The gathered military leaders exchanged grim looks. Earth's combined fleet numbered barely 100 ships, and while humanity's technology had advanced rapidly in recent decades, they were about to face an enemy that had been conquering worlds for millennia. But humanity hadn't been idle in the years since reaching the stars. Deep beneath the surface of Mars, in facilities hidden from prying eyes, Earth's greatest scientists had been working on a project that might just save them all. "It's time," James announced. "Initiate Project Aegis." The command room erupted into action. Orders were transmitted to bases across the solar system, and deep within Mars, massive generators began to power up. Dr. Aisha Patel, the project's lead scientist, appeared on the main screen, her expression determined. "Admiral, the quantum shield generators are ready for the first full-scale test. But you should know, we've never attempted to create a field this large. The energy requirements alone." James cut her off with a raised hand. "We're out of options, Doctor. How long until the shield is operational?" 24 hours to achieve full coverage of Earth and the inner colonies. "But sir, there's something else you need to know. The quantum field. It's not just defensive. Our simulations suggest it could be used as a weapon." This caught everyone's attention. The quantum shield technology had been developed as humanity's ultimate defense, a way to create an impenetrable barrier by manipulating the fabric of space-time itself. The idea that it could be weaponized was both promising and terrifying. "Explain," James demanded. "The shield works by creating a quantum barrier that exists partially outside normal space-time. But we've discovered we can invert the field, turning it into a directed wave of quantum energy. Theoretically, it could disrupt any ship's systems, maybe even tear them apart at the atomic level." The implications were staggering. It wasn't just a shield, it was potentially the most powerful weapon humanity had ever created. But using it would require perfect timing and coordination across the entire solar system. As the preparations continued, Sarah Chen's voice came through on a private channel. The Pathfinder had made it back to Earth just hours earlier. "Dad, there's something else about the beacon's warning you need to know. The data we recovered, it suggests these aren't just invaders. They're running from something." James frowned. "Running from what?" "We don't know. But whatever it is, it scared them enough to make them spend thousands of years searching for new worlds to conquer. They're not just attacking us. They're desperate. The Admiral absorbed this information, his tactical mind already considering the implications. Desperate enemies were often the most dangerous, but they could also be predictable. Perhaps they could use that desperation against them. "Sir," Commander Tanaka's voice cut through his thoughts. "The first wave of enemy ships has entered the Kuiper Belt. They're moving faster than we anticipated." James straightened his uniform and faced the massive display. Hundreds of red dots were moving through the outer solar system, while blue indicators showed Earth's forces taking up defensive positions. At the center of it all, Earth gleamed like a jewel, completely unaware of the battle about to be fought for its survival. "Begin evacuation of all orbital facilities," he ordered. "Move all civilian ships behind Mars. Dr. Patel, you have 12 hours to get that shield operational. Not 24. 12. "Sir, that's impossible," she protested. "The power requirements alone." "Doctor, in 12 hours, the largest hostile fleet humanity has ever encountered will be in range of Earth. Make it possible." As the command center burst into renewed activity, James studied the tactical display. The enemy ships were arranging themselves into an attack formation he'd never seen before, complex and fluid, like a swarm of deadly insects. They had superior numbers and thousands of years of combat experience. But humanity had something they didn't: the determination to protect their home at any cost. And now, thanks to the quantum shield, the means to do it. "Send word to all ships," James commanded. "Operation Aegis is now active. This is not a defensive action. This is humanity's first strike. Show them what happens when they threaten Earth." As the orders went out, the massive quantum generators on Mars hummed to life, preparing to create the largest artificial structure in human history. The shield of Terra was about to be raised, and with it, humanity's chances of survival would either be secured or lost forever. The TSS Hyperion hung in high orbit above Mars, its sleek hull reflecting the red planet's dusty surface. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood on the bridge of humanity's most advanced warship, watching as the quantum shield shimmed across Earth's atmosphere like an iridescent soap bubble. The enemy fleet had begun their approach, their massive ships cutting through the Kuiper Belt with predatory grace. "All systems are go, Captain," announced Commander David Chen, nephew of Admiral James Chen. "Quantum core is stable at 98% capacity." The Hyperion was humanity's ace in the hole, a ship built in secret using technology reverse-engineered from fragments of ancient alien tech found throughout the solar system. But its most powerful weapon wasn't its advanced weaponry or its experimental armor. It was what lay at its heart: a revolutionary wormhole drive capable of precise jumps within a battle space. "Status of Operation Thunderstrike?" Maya asked, her voice steady despite the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. "The enemy fleet has taken the bait," David reported. "They're concentrating their forces on the quantum shield, just as predicted. 70% of their ships are now within the target zone." The plan was audacious, perhaps even reckless. While the quantum shield protected Earth, the Hyperion would execute a series of precise wormhole jumps through the enemy fleet, deploying specially designed quantum resonance bombs. Each bomb would create a cascading reaction with the next, turning the enemy's tight formation against them. "Message from Admiral Chen," the communications officer announced. "Operation Thunderstrike is green-lit. We launch in 5 minutes." Maya took a deep breath, looking at each member of her bridge crew. They were the best of the best, chosen specifically for this mission. Many had family on Earth, watching the alien fleet approach with growing dread. All of them knew the stakes. "Combat stations," she ordered. "Begin wormhole drive spooling sequence." The ship hummed to life around them, its quantum core powering up to levels that would have been impossible just a few years ago. On the tactical display, the enemy fleet appeared as a swarm of red markers, their formation almost beautiful in its complexity. "First jump calculated," David announced. "Ready on your mark." Maya gripped the arms of her command chair. Everything they knew about these invaders came from the ancient warning beacon. They were powerful, ruthless, and desperate, but they had never faced humanity before. "Execute jump sequence," she commanded. The universe seemed to fold around the Hyperion. For a fraction of a second, Maya felt her consciousness stretch like taffy, then snap back into place. They emerged in the heart of the enemy fleet, surrounded by massive alien vessels that dwarfed their ship. "First package away," weapons reported. Moving to second jump point. The quantum resonance bomb dropped away from the Hyperion, its casing designed to appear as debris to enemy sensors. Before the alien ships could react, the Hyperion vanished again, reappearing 2,000 kilometers to port. "Enemy vessels are responding," Tactical announced. "They're breaking formation." But it was too late. The first bomb detonated, its quantum resonance wave spreading through space like ripples in a pond. The effect on the alien ships was devastating. Their energy shields fluctuated and failed, their hulls beginning to vibrate at a molecular level. Second package deployed. Moving to third position. Jump after jump, the Hyperion danced through the enemy fleet, each quantum bomb adding to the chaos. The alien ships, designed to fight conventional battles, found themselves trapped in a web of quantum resonance that turned their own massive power plants against them. "Enemy vessels are attempting to compensate," David reported, excitement creeping into his voice. "But they can't adapt fast enough. The cascade effect is working." On the tactical display, Maya watched as the carefully orchestrated pattern of quantum detonations spread through the enemy formation. Ships began to break apart, their atomic bonds weakened by the overlapping resonance fields. But in the midst of their success, something unexpected happened. One of the largest alien vessels, instead of attempting to escape the quantum field, drove straight toward its center. Its hull was already beginning to break apart, but its engines burned with desperate intensity. "They're trying to overload their power core," David realized with horror. "If they detonate inside the resonance field." "Emergency jump," Maya shouted. "Get us out off." The alien ship exploded, its power core releasing enough energy to temporarily blind their sensors. When the displays cleared, a massive section of the enemy fleet was gone, torn apart by the combined force of the explosion and the quantum resonance field. But something else had changed. The remaining alien ships were no longer attacking. Instead, they were broadcasting a signal on all frequencies. "Captain," communications called out, "we're receiving a transmission. It's in multiple languages, including English." Maya straightened in her chair. "Put it through." A voice filled the bridge, its tone carrying both fear and desperation. "Cease fire, please. You don't understand. We're not your enemy. What follows us, what hunts us, it will destroy us all." Maya exchanged looks with her crew. The battle had been won, but something told her the real war was just beginning. The diplomatic chamber aboard the TSS Hyperion thrummed with tension. Captain Maya Rodriguez sat across from Archon Vexthor, the leader of what they now knew were called the Nexari. The alien's crystalline skin reflected the room's light in complex patterns, a stark reminder of just how different their species were. "Show us," Admiral Chen commanded from the holographic display. "Show us what you're running from." Vexthor raised a multifaceted hand, activating a device that projected a three-dimensional image in the center of the room. The image showed a massive dark mass moving between stars, consuming everything in its path. "We call them the Void," Vexthor's translator conveyed. "They emerged from the space between galaxies 10,000 years ago. They don't communicate. They don't negotiate. They simply consume." Dr. Emily Hayes, brought in from the Pathfinder for her expertise, studied the projection intently. "The beacon we found. It wasn't just a warning about you. It was a warning about them." "Yes," Vexthor confirmed. "The beings you call the Ancients, we knew them as the Preservers. They fought the Void, created weapons and defenses, but in the end, they too fell. We found their beacons, learned from their technology, but we could never match their power." Maya watched the projection, seeing entire solar systems vanish into the darkness. So you became conquerors, taking worlds, resources, trying to stay ahead of this threat. To survive, Vexthor's crystalline features shifted in what might have been shame. Each world we took strengthened us, gave us more resources to fight, more ships to carry our people. We believed your world would be the same, primitive, defenseless. We were wrong. Admiral Chen's hologram stepped closer to the projection. The quantum shield, the resonance weapons. You're saying the ancients developed similar technology. Similar, yes, but crude compared to what you've created. Vexthor turned to face Maya. Your quantum manipulation technology, it's beyond anything we've seen. Beyond even what the Preservers achieved. You did in decades what took them centuries. The implications hung heavy in the room. Humanity, the newcomers to galactic civilization, had somehow surpassed both their would-be conquerors and the legendary ancients. The void will be here soon, Vexthor continued. We detected their approach just before we found your world. That's why we rushed our attack. We hoped to claim Earth's resources before they arrived. Now, the alien's crystalline form dimmed slightly. Now we ask for alliance instead of conquest. Maya exchanged looks with Admiral Chen's hologram. The decision before them was monumental. The Nexeri had been their enemies mere hours ago, responsible for deaths and destruction across the solar system. But if they were telling the truth about the void, you said the ancients had weapons, Maya probed. Defenses, where are they now? Vexthor's translator crackled with excitement, scattered across the galaxy. We found some. The beacon you discovered was one. But there are others, hidden in places we could never reach. Places that might now be accessible with your quantum technology. Dr. Hayes stepped forward. The beacon's data. It wasn't just a warning. It was a map. Yes, Vexthor confirmed. A map to the Preserver's greatest weapons and repositories of knowledge. But the locations, many are in regions of space we cannot survive. Quantum storms, temporal anomalies, spaces where reality itself breaks down. Admiral Chen's hologram flickered as he paced. But with our quantum shield technology, we might be able to reach them, Maya finished. She stood, facing Vexthor. You're asking us to trust you, to risk everything on your word. The alien leader's crystalline form pulsed with soft light. We offer everything we have. Our knowledge, our technology, our warriors, all in service of survival. Not just ours now, but yours too. The void does not discriminate. It consumes all. A signal chimed, and a tactical officer's voice filled the room. Captain, Admiral, we're detecting massive disturbances at the edge of the solar system. Something's coming through subspace. It's bigger than anything we've ever seen. Maya looked at the tactical display as it updated. The dark mass emerging from subspace was enormous, making the Nexeri fleet look tiny in comparison. The void between stars had come to Earth. How long? Admiral Chen demanded. At current speed, 72 hours until they reach Earth's orbit. Maya turned to Vexthor, seeing her own determination reflected in the alien's crystalline features. Tell us everything you know about the Preserver's weapons, every detail, every location. The alien straightened. You would trust us, after what we did. No, Maya replied firmly, but we'll fight alongside you. Because if what you're saying is true, we don't have a choice. Humanity built the quantum shield to protect Earth. Now we'll use it to protect everything. As the tactical display showed the approaching darkness, humans and Nexeri began to plan. They had 3 days to find the ancients' weapons, unlock their secrets, and prepare for a battle that would determine the fate of not just Earth, but all life in the galaxy. The combined fleet of human and Nexeri ships hung in formation around Earth, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight. In the 72 hours since the void's approach was detected, the solar system had become a frenzy of activity. The TSS Hyperion had made dozens of quantum jumps to the coordinates provided by the ancient beacons, retrieving artifacts and weapons that had lain dormant for millennia. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood on the Hyperion's bridge, watching as Dr. Hayes and Nexari engineers worked to integrate the ancient technology with their quantum shield systems. The modifications were revolutionary and completely untested. Final system check complete, Commander David Chen reported. Quantum core is stable and the ancient amplifiers are responding. Shield network is at full power. Maya nodded, her eyes fixed on the tactical display where the void continued its inexorable approach. The enemy was unlike anything they'd imagined. Not a fleet or an army, but a living darkness that consumed everything in its path. The very fabric of space seemed to warp around it. Status of the civilian evacuation? She asked. Last transports are clearing Mars orbit now, David responded. All non-essential personnel are at minimum safe distance. Admiral Chen's hologram appeared on the bridge. The quantum shield grid is online. All ships report ready. Captain Rodriguez, this is your operation. The fate of Earth, of everything, rests on what we do here. Maya took a deep breath, looking at the tactical display one last time. The plan they'd developed was audacious, combining ancient wisdom with human innovation in ways never before attempted. It had to work. There would be no second chances. All ships, this is Captain Rodriguez, execute Operation Starforge. Across the solar system, massive quantum generators powered up. The shield around Earth pulsed with energy as hundreds of smaller fields began to form, creating a complex geometric pattern in space. Each intersection point was marked by a piece of ancient technology, retrieved from hidden caches across the galaxy. The void is responding, Tactical reported. It's changing course, moving faster. They sensed the threat. Vexthor's voice came through the comm. Just as the preservers predicted, channel all power to the primary nodes. The quantum shield network began to pulse with increasing intensity. The ancient devices activated one by one, each adding its power to the growing energy field. The space between the shield segments began to shimmer with impossible colors. Maya gripped her command chair. Hold position. Wait for my mark. The void accelerated, its massive form stretching across space like spilled ink. Where it touched the outer shield segments, reality itself seemed to tear. Warning alarms blared across every ship in the fleet. We can't hold this pattern much longer, Dr. Hayes called out. The power requirements are now. Maya commanded. Initiate quantum collapse. Every ship in the fleet fired their engines at once, changing the geometry of the shield network. The ancient devices pulsed with blinding light as the entire structure began to fold in on itself, creating a quantum singularity unlike anything ever seen before. The void, caught in the collapsing field, began to writhe. For the first time, they heard something from it. Not communication, but a sound that made the very hull of the ship vibrate in sympathy. It's working, David shouted over the noise. The quantum resonance is disrupting its molecular cohesion. But the void fought back. Tendrils of darkness lashed out, shattering shield segments and destroying ships. The Hyperion shuddered as debris from destroyed vessels impacted its hull. We're losing containment, Hayes warned. The field is collapsing. No, Maya said firmly. We're not done yet. She opened a channel to all ships. This is Captain Rodriguez. Divert all power to your quantum cores. Everything you've got. We end this here. Across the fleet, every available scrap of energy was channeled into the quantum network. The ancient devices blazed with power, their light rivaling the sun. The geometric pattern of shield segments began to spin, creating a vortex of quantum energy that pulled at the very fabric of space-time. The void's writhing became more violent, its form beginning to break apart under the intense quantum forces. But as it dissolved, it lashed out one final time. A massive tendril of darkness struck the Hyperion directly. Hull breach on decks 3 through 7, David reported. We're losing power. Maya held onto her chair as the ship bucked beneath her. Maintain position. Pour everything we have into the field. The quantum vortex reached its peak, the combined power of human technology and ancient artifacts creating a disruption in spacetime itself. The void, caught in forces it couldn't resist, began to fold in on itself, its massive form compressing into an ever smaller point of absolute darkness. Then, with a flash that temporarily blinded every sensor in the solar system, it was gone. Where the void had been, only empty space remained, scattered with the debris of destroyed ships and shattered shield segments. For a long moment, silence reigned across every channel. Then cheers erupted throughout the fleet. Human and Nexari voices joined together in celebration as the tactical displays confirmed what seemed impossible. The void was gone. Maya slumped in her chair, exhausted but triumphant. Damage report. Heavy casualties across the fleet, David reported, his voice rough with emotion. But Earth is safe. We did it, Captain. We actually did it. Admiral Chen's hologram flickered back to life. Captain Rodriguez, well done. You've just made history. We all did, sir, Maya replied, looking at her crew, at the Nexari ships flying alongside them, at the ancient devices that had helped save them all. Human, Nexari, even the preservers, we won this together. As recovery operations began, Maya watched Earth shining below them, untouched and beautiful. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged not just victorious, but transformed. They had proved themselves worthy inheritors of the Preserver's legacy, and in doing so, had forged a new future for all species in the galaxy. The quantum shield technology that had saved them would now help rebuild. Its power turned to healing rather than war. And in the depths of space, the ancient beacons continued their silent vigil, waiting for the next civilization brave enough to reach for the stars.